Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum class. Today in this lecture we will discuss and learn about the vocalization in amphibians as well as the various types of calls which are produced by various neurons like advertisement calls, receptive calls, release calls and distress calls as well as the mechanism of sound production in neurons. The vocalization behaviors of neuron amphibians like frogs and toads are universally sexually dimorphic, meaning that a condition where the two sexes of the same species exhibit different characteristics beyond the differences in their sexual organs. And this condition occurs in many animals and some plants. Usually only male frogs give an advertisement call, while female frogs calls are limited to a soft and simple release call which is specifically suppressed at mating. In a very few species, however, female frogs also give mating vocalizations, and the sound production in neurons like frogs and toads have reproductive functions, and frogs produce different types of calls like advertisement calls, receptive calls, release calls and distress calls. The advertisement calls are used to attract females to the breeding areas, and they are the announcement for other males that the given territory is occupied, and they are species specific, meaning that the member of the same species can recognize these kind of calls, and these calls induces physiological and psychological changes in female, so female gets ready for breeding. For example, the advertisement call of Rana tigrina species consists of a number of calls produced in a series forming a call group, and each call group of Rana tigrina comprises 10 to 40 calls, and each call consists of a pulse group with variable number of pulses which lack pulse interval. Now if the female is ready for mating, then it produces the receptive calls, and these are the indications for readiness of female for breeding. Now the third calls of neurons include the release calls, which are the calls to inform the partner that it is incapable of reproducing, and some males try to amplexus other unresponsive females. Amplexus, with few exceptions, neurons like frogs and toads fertilize eggs externally, and the most common practice is to deposit sperms as the eggs are laid, with the male clasping the female from dorsally with his forelegs, and this condition is known as amplexus condition, when a male clasps the female from dorsal position with his forelegs. And a number of arrow poisoning frogs do not use amplexus, but instead the male fertilizes the eggs after the female deposits them. And in some species of narrow-mouthed frogs, the bodies of the male and female are glued together for a short period of time, and in other neurons, the male's cloaca is held next to the female's while sperm is transferred, which results in internal fertilization, but no intromittent organ is present. And in case of North American tailed frog, the tail is actually a modification or extension of the cloaca and is inserted into the female's cloaca to transfer sperm. These behaviors and anatomic modifications could be interpreted as fighting amplexus in neurons in general or injury in the tailed frog in particular. So, in case of amplexus, when some males try to amplexus other unresponsive females, such females also give the release calls, and sometimes a male mistakenly identified other male as a female. So in this case, the other male also produce the release call. So during mating, the male frog grasps the female with his forelimb around her waist, so that they are oriented in the same direction. In addition, the male is dorsal to the female. This position is called amplexus, and during the amplexus, the male release sperms and female release eggs. There are many complex mechanisms of amplexus in aneurons, like inguinal amplexus, axillary amplexus, cephalic amplexus, head straddle, glued amplexus, dorsal straddle. So there have been many types of amplexus identified within the literature. However, there are two types of amplexus that are more common than others, known as inguinal and axillary amplexus. That is the first from the left side and the second from the above slides. First and second from the above slides. These are the most common mechanisms which are identified among aneurons. And these two types of amplexus have been classified based on the position of the male amphibian to the female it is mating with. When a male amphibian clasps a female around their waist, this is known as inguinal region, using his forelimbs. This is then considered inguinal amplexus. Contrastingly, when a male amphibian clasps behind the forelimbs, that is the axillary region of a female amphibian, this is then considered as axillary amplexus. The word amplexus is derived from the Latin word meaning embrace, and it is a type of mating behavior which is exhibited by some externally fertilizing species of frogs and toads, in which a male grasps a female with his front legs as a part of their mating process, and at the same time, or with some time delay, he fertilizes the eggs as they are released from the female's body. In amphibians, females may be grasped by the head, waist, or armpits, and the type of amplexus is a characteristic of some taxonomic groups. And amplexus involves direct contact between male and female, which is distinguished from other forms of external fertilization such as broadcast spawning, where sperms and eggs are freely shed into water without direct contact by individuals. In order for amplexus to be initiated, male frogs must first find a mate by attracting one through calls, typically in the evening. Once a male has successfully attracted a mate, the process of amplexus begins, while the unsuccessful males are forced to continue their search for a mate through further calls. The competition for a female to mate with among males is considered intense, as it is not uncommon for a male amphibian to attack an already amplexed pair of amphibians. When a male amphibian attacks an already amplexed pair of amphibians, he is trying to force the other male to release its grasp of the female so he can then mate with her. Male amphibians are also known to show mate guarding behavior, which is shown after amplexus, and it is the male's attempt to prevent the female amphibian from mating with other males. The duration of amplexus has been found to vary across different species, as in some species it has been found to last for many days, but in other species it has been found to last a few hours. Despite the variation in duration of amplexus across different species, typically all the species that exhibit this behavior have to use their forelimbs muscles for the whole duration of amplexus. The last call which are produced by various aneurons include the distress calls, and these distress calls are very dramatic calls made by a frog that is being attacked by a predator. These calls are usually a high-pitched scream or wail that startles a predator, causing it to release the frog, allowing it to escape. These calls are a clear sign of panic and can be quite distressing to hear. So these are not associated with reproduction, and these are produced as a result of pain or danger of a predator. And these calls are much loud. This is the main characteristics of this kind of calls, and these calls frighten the predator to release the frog. For example, the calls of South American jungle frog, and the distress call of this frog is as loud as a cat call in distress. The South American jungle frog is also known as smoky jungle frog and South American bullfrog, and it is a large frog found in Bolivia Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, French Guiana, and Peru. And the females of this frog are larger than males and can grow up to 18.5 centimeter in body length. The tadpoles are also large, reaching lengths of up to 83 millimeter. Males have a spine on each of their thumbs and two further spines on their chest. As a defense against predators, the smoky jungle frog or South American jungle frog is able to secrete a large amount of toxic slime. In this slide you can see the image of a South American jungle frog, which is also known as a smoky frog. Now we will discuss about the advantages of vocalization in amphibians. As we all know that amphibians live in a widely dispersed habitat, therefore it is useful for them to attract mates from distant places. Many species of frogs are collected at the same pond for breeding, so it becomes very difficult for them to find their proper mate. Therefore, vocalization helps to attract their mate of the same species in the same breeding pond. Now we are going to discuss about the sound producing apparatus of anurans, that is the vocal cords. They are also known as voice box, which are located in the larynx, and they are much more developed in male frogs than in females. A frog produces sound by passing air back and forth over the vocal cords between the lungs and a larger pair of sacs, which are known as vocal pouches, in the floor of the mouth. So the vocal sacs also serve as effective resonators in males, which use their voices to attract mates. Most species have a unique sound patterns, so they can recognize the specific sound production from the specific species. So these sounds are basically the species specific sounds. In this slide there is comparison made between vocal cords and vocal sacs of a frog. The vocal cords are two muscular cords that run longitudinally along the larynx that I will show you in the next upcoming slide. And the purpose of these vocal cords is to produce a croaking sound, which is produced by passing air over the vocal cords in the larynx of the throat. So it continues as a true voice, that is a loud call, which is produced usually by males during the breeding season. While the vocal sac is a flap of skin in the front of their throats, which allows the frogs to croak, trill and rebit. And how the vocal sacs helps the frog to croak, trill or rebit. As the frog inhales, the vocal sacs are filled with air, and these vocal sacs stretch out like a balloon with its mouth closed. Frog forces air from this sac back and forth over its vocal cords, and this helps to produce a loud repetitive sound. So the vocal sacs helps the vocal cords to produce a loud repetitive sounds, and they force air from their vocal sacs back and forth in the vocal cords to produce the specific sounds in the breeding season of frogs. In this slide you can see the vocal sacs of a frog. The primary purpose of the vocal sac is to amplify the advertisement call of the male and to attract many females as possible. Species of frog without vocal sacs may only be heard within a radius of a few meters, whereas some species with vocal sacs can be heard over 1 kilometer away. Modern frog species which lack vocal sacs tend to inhabit areas close to the flowing water, and the sound of the flowing water overpowers the advertisement call, so they must advertise by other means. An alternative use of the vocal sac is employed by the frogs of the Rhinodermatidae family, and the males of the two species of this family will scoop recently hatched tadpoles into their mouth, where they will move into the vocal sac. The tadpoles of Darwin's frog will remain in the vocal sac until metamorphosis, whereas the Chile's Darwin frog will transport the tadpoles to the water source. This is the last slide showing the vocal cords of a frog. As I already have told you that the sound which is made by frog or toad is produced when air is forced over its vocal cords. The vocal cords are thin bands, as you can see in this image. They are basically the thin bands of tissue which are located in the larynx or voice box, which lies between the mouth and the lungs, and they use their voices to claim their territory and to warn away rivals and to frighten off the predator.